Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View.
All right! This is Jessie. I am so happy to be back with you guys. Yes, I know, it is Wednesday, and this is the first time I have gotten on air all week. All right, first, I'm sorry. Monday night, I'm obviously gonna be moving to the 9 o'clock time slot permanently now. Monday night was Real Serious Nonsense's last show. And I was running late on show prep, so I just said, I'm not even doing my show tonight. Sorry, not happening. Nope. We're not going there. All right, so then last night I had an emergency at work. And as I've discussed with you guys before, this is basically a hobby. And a work emergency, well, sorry, it's always going to take priority over you guys. So it's what had to happen. All right, now, I know. You hear me talk about North Korea, Iran, Iraq, and every terrorist out there. How many times? How often have you heard this? Oh, yeah. You've heard it. You've heard it plenty. Well, I got something special for you guys tonight. I'm not alone. Nope. I've got Dr. Judy Elmore with me. Judy, come on, say hi to everybody. How you doing tonight?
Hello. Yes. Well, for you it's night, but for me it's the middle of the afternoon.
I know, time differences. And who knows when these people are listening, because guess what? They can...
It's downloadable!
Exactly, and including on iTunes. All right. Now, you've got a Juno update and a Jupiter update for us. I can't wait. We've been waiting to do this episode since you first since the thing launched or whatever it was.
Since it did its insertion in and around Jupiter's orbit. Yeah.
Okay, so since its insertion,
it's such a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've had to wait, and you were always like, I checked the NASA site, there's nothing. I checked the NASA site, there's nothing. And finally the other day, I'll never forget when you hit me up and you're like, okay, I can do it now. And I'm like, awesome.
Yeah, no, they finally came through with the first of their flyby updates, which is fantastic. For those of the listeners that don't know, Juno is the mission that NASA is running to do science exploration around Jupiter, of course, the biggest planet in their solar system. And it's important to actually know that this has been something that's been in the works for a good number of years, because they launched Juno 5 years ago. So we've been waiting 5 years for them to get any sorts of data or any sorts of results from Jupiter, and the first lot of results are starting to come through.
Okay, scientists must be really patient people. 5 years? I know people that can't wait 5 minutes for popcorn in the microwave. Okay? I mean, really. So these people literally they launch this thing and then they sit on their hands and check on it every once in a while, and sat on their hands for 5 years.
Well, they would have sat on their hands for a bit longer, because you would have thought, how long does it take to build a special instrument that is going to be specifically designed for exploring Jupiter, only to destroy it in 18 months' time?
Wait a minute. They're going to destroy it? Okay.
Yes, they are going to destroy it in 18 months' time.
Okay.
I know, scientists are crazy. It's the things we do in the name of exploration and trying to understand the world. It's bizarre. It's crazy. I know.
Can you tell me why they're going to destroy it?
All right. The reason why they're actually aiming to the final phase of Juno is... All right, let me just take a bit of a step back here. Basically, Juno has got a variety of different mission steps to it. The primary mission that it's got is actually doing these flybys, and there's 36 in the sequence that they're going to be doing. So 36 times, Juno is going to be going very close to the planet and taking science instruments, different scientific measurements, and sending all of that information back to Earth. On its last flyby, they are going to be changing the trajectory of Juno itself and crashing it into the planet.
All right.
So it is not coming back. The reason they're doing this is because they don't want to contaminate anything else that's out there. There's always the risk that it could crash into something else, but it is locked into Juno's orbit. There's nothing else we can do about this, so we might as well just crash it into the planet. That way we can preserve as much as we can of the moons that are out there as well for future explorations.
Okay, so they're actually being kind of environmentally conscientious of space, right?
In a funky way, yeah, they are.
Okay, that's a new one on me. That's a new one. I mean, I've heard recycle. I've heard don't throw your little plastic six-pack thingies in the ocean or in the, out without cutting them up because it could trap some poor animal. I've heard them all. At least I thought I had until today. So that's a new one, Judy. You got me. You got me. So,
well, like I said, they're going to be crash landing it, so it's going to be interesting.
All right, now I know you. You've got your PhD, which means there's one thing you do and you do well. You do research.
Yeah, just a bit. I'm a bit research mad.
All right. And I know you wouldn't have told me you were ready to come on the show without a stack of research sitting next to you. So,
of course, and it's right in front of me, all these funky numbers and everything. Yeah, doing all the calculations. Definitely.
All right. So
what do you want to know? That's what it comes down to.
All right. How fast is this thing going? And by the way, any of you out there listening, feel free to jump in the chat room. If I can always read your questions out. Be happy to do so. We don't have anybody yet, but hey, I'd love to have some of you in the chat room. I am actually in the chat room tonight. I'm not always there. I'm trying to make a habit of it. So bear with me, guys. All right. So how fast does this thing go, and how close is close?
Okay. Well, let's start with the how fast this thing is going. When it did its latest flyby, it was going at 130,000 miles per hour. And for those who are working in the metric system, that's 208,000 kilometers per hour. I'll give you a bit of perspective here. A Boeing 747, its cruising speed is 550 to 600 miles per hour. It's quite slow. The fastest plane recorded, so the X-15, was recorded at a speed of 4,520 miles per hour. That's pretty fast. The International Space Station and any of the other satellites that happen to be orbiting the Earth as well, they are traveling at 17,150 miles per hour. So Juno was traveling easily 5 times that speed.
Wait a minute.
It was going around Jupiter.
So it takes more speed for Juno to orbit Jupiter than it does for the space station to orbit the Earth.
Yes, it does. And one of the reasons why is because the orbit around Jupiter is not circular. The orbit that the satellites have around Earth and the orbit that the International Space Station have is a circular orbit. But Juno is deliberately having an elliptical orbit, and that's to get it away from the magnetic fields around the planet for a period of time to give the instruments a bit of breathing space. We're not exactly sure what sort of radiation is coming from those magnetic fields, and we need to give the instruments time to recover.
All right, wait
from
a minute.
The radiation exposure.
For people who aren't good with big words, elliptical, it's kind of like an oval shape, right?
Yeah, it's an oval. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. That's okay. I've had some goofy questions before, so I figured let's make sure everybody understands, and I think they can all understand giving the scientific instruments a rest, because doesn't everything need rest? So this thing, because it's going in an elliptical orbit, it has to be going 5 times faster than this International Space Station.
Yeah,
Whoa.
That's why. It's got to be that fast just so it can maintain that orbit and actually get away from the poles long enough to create that elliptical orbit. So it's an interesting, fun calculations that they would have done at the time when they created the trajectory algorithms.
Yeah, that sounds like it needs a lot of calculations, Judy. A lot.
Yeah, and let's hope they didn't get it wrong.
Wait a minute. What would happen? God forbid they'd gotten it wrong.
If they got it wrong, well, they could crash into the planet a lot sooner than they expected. Or if they miscalculated, say, the trajectories or how the moons are moving, it could by accident intersect with one of the moons.
Okay.
If they also got it wrong and was moving too fast, it could break away from Jupiter's orbit as well and shoot off into space. So there are things that could have gone wrong, but so far it looks like we've got it all right.
So it looks like they actually used their calculators and slide rules and computers and everything and got this right.
Here's hoping we did, yeah.
And when you say we, for those people who've never heard a show with you before, please remind everyone what you have your PhD in.
Sure. My PhD is actually in astronomy, and I also did an engineering degree as well, and I specialized in astronomical instrumentation. So I understand what the engineers who designed this system, designed Juno, would have gone through and pulling their hairs out, trying to get every single detail correct and making sure that all the instruments are working the way they need to. It is not an easy task, and for anyone who thinks it is, they are deluding themselves. There is a lot of engineering that went into the Juno and its instruments, and at various different stages by multiple different people.
All right, that sounds well beyond my math skills, Judy. It really does. I'm sorry, but okay. Yeah, no. And I'm glad you understand this because, all right. Now, what are some of the other, I know you have, so how close was close? You said it got close.
Okay. It got very close. It actually came, I don't know if you want to consider it close or not, but I do. It came 2,600 miles just above the atmospheric clouds. Now that doesn't sound like a lot for those who are working in the metric system. That's 4,200 kilometers. To give you again some perspective, if you were to drive from New York City to Los Angeles, you would travel 2,792 miles.
Wow.
So basically the width of the United States was how close it came to the clouds. Now, that doesn't sound sometimes like it's very close, but here's an idea. Give you another idea. The International Space Station is 250 miles above sea level. So if we travel out into space 250 miles, we're going to encounter the International Space Station.
Wait a minute. So the International Space Station that we all think is way out there is 250 miles up.
Yeah, that's it.
How far is the moon?
Not very far. The moon itself is 239,000 miles out there. Again, we have this perspective of the moon being quite close, but it's not. It's quite a distance. So Juno moved even closer, significantly so. And when you consider how big Jupiter itself is, that's close. That's very close.
Now, if it tried to get closer, I'm guessing the gravity from Jupiter, I'm assuming Jupiter has gravity,
yes,
would pull it in.
Yeah, well, if it wanted to get closer, it would have had to been moving even faster to break away from that gravitational pull that Jupiter has. And that's the issues. It can only go so fast. So you would have had a known trajectory and a known distance that it can go that you know you can break away.
And they would have worked all this out. I'm assuming there was probably computer simulation and all that involved.
Oh, yeah. And I can guarantee there would have been someone who sat down manually, double-checked all the numbers as well. You can't guarantee that.
Someone sat down with a pencil and paper or a marker on a whiteboard and literally did all these calculations by hand, too?
I wouldn't be surprised if someone had. I really would not be surprised. I mean, if you look at it historically, that's exactly what happened when you had during the Apollo missions. You had the computers working out the calculations, but you had what they called human calculators or human computers that were double checking all of the calculations that came from those computers.
That blows my mind because, okay, you're talking somebody who I can make change pretty quick and easy without a pen and paper. But much beyond that, I don't even add a column of numbers without a calculator. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is quite a scary thing, especially when you think about the time frame that the Apollo missions happened. But that's what they did. They had whole rooms of people who were basically double checking the calculations that came off those computers, because if they got it wrong, they got it wrong in a big way, and it meant lives. In this case, we're not talking about lives because we're talking about just a satellite, but it's still a lot of time and energy that's gone into those calculations. You want to make sure that they're right, because it's wasted years if we get it wrong.
All right, so how much information are they really going to be able to gather if that thing is going that fast?
Well, think about your camera itself. Okay, you're talking about just your smartphone camera. Think about how much data comes off of that thing. You're not taking a lot of data at a period of time, but it's still big images, and we are talking, what, gigabytes worth of images nowadays?
Sometimes.
Yep. Okay, well, this thing, Juno, as it was going around Jupiter, it collected roughly about an hour's worth of data as it was going from pole to pole, and it collected those images at an insane amount of rate, multiple different instruments, multiple different cameras, and that's the other reason why it needs to take a break, because it has to be able to send all of that data back to Earth before it goes for another pass. It has to dump all of its data eventually into the data link. It's going to take time.
Because they're going to crash it, and they won't be able, if they screw up getting that data, they'll never be able to get it again. Now,
exactly.
What's the most interesting thing you found out about Juno? Something that what's the most interesting or unique thing you found out?
There's some pop culture on Juno. I was looking at some fun
culture on something flying around Jupiter.
Yeah, exactly. I had fun looking at, there are various different press packets that NASA had done. Are you aware that they had created 3 special little Lego figurines, 3D molded, and they had actually put them on Juno and then launched it. So they have a little Lego figurine of Galileo, and we're talking about the ancient astronomer that's, over 400 years ago. And then we have a little figurine of Juno, who is actually the Greek goddess who was married to Jupiter. And of course, they've got Jupiter as well. All these little figurines, and they're so little cute. I wish Lego would actually make them into proper figurines so I could buy them. They were so cute. But no, they're 3D special 3D prints that they did, and they're on Juno, and they're never coming back.
Now, did Lego actually make them, or did NASA make them, or didn't the article say?
The article didn't say. I'm guessing that it was just someone that just had so much fun and was just being in the geek mode.
That is definitely, though, something interesting and cute. Now, when you first discussed this, you talked about how much it took to power this thing. How much power is behind this fast-moving orbit?
Okay. When I spoke to Rick about that, I think I got my numbers originally wrong in that when I spoke live, and I did some double checks and quick calculations. It is only 500 watts that it takes to power Juno.
Wait a minute.
Now, to give you an idea,
I have a 50-watt light bulb sitting right in the light right next to me.
Exactly. So the amount of power that it takes to power every single system that's on Juno, it's only the power for 10 light bulbs.
10 light bulbs. I have that in my living room.
I think most of us would struggle to power our homes off of 10 light bulbs worth of power. I really do. But to think that they've built this incredibly complicated scientific instrument, launched it into space, and it is operating off of that much power.
That's not much power. I mean, I figured this thing would have like some big nuclear component to it.
Oh, now, so here's the thing. Juno is solar powered. There is no nuclear power on it whatsoever. It is 100% solar powered.
Is that what makes it safe to crash into Jupiter?
That's what makes it safe. Because we know that there is no nuclear signatures on it, we know we're not going to be contaminating the Jupiter atmosphere with nuclear signatures. That's one of the reasons why they've decided to go down this road. And it makes it a little bit more eco-friendly in that respect. But yeah, it's solar powered, and it's the furthest that we have sent a solar powered instrument into space. Hence the reason why it's so exciting.
Oh, it is kind of exciting, and you're even getting me excited about it. And you know my extent of astronomy, right? Yeah, the moon's out there. There's a star. I couldn't tell you what it is.
I'll get you converted yet, I'm sure.
You keep trying. You keep trying. I can be stubborn, Judy.
Yeah, I know. But that's okay. I'm still going to try.
Oh, I know. And that's one thing that is always fun about having you on, because you're so knowledgeable and you're just as stubborn as I am in some aspects.
Yeah, probably. But that's okay. Hey, will be interesting to find out what they come up with, though, with Juno. They haven't released any of the results yet, so I don't know exactly what those preliminary results are, but they have released some pretty cool images from Juno Cam. Juno Cam, I probably should explain this, is basically, it's just a camera, just like you would get on your cell phone. It doesn't have anything. It's no real science instrument. All it's doing is it's taking pictures, and that's all it's doing. And they've already released, NASA has released an image that they took before insertion that actually had Jupiter along with 3 of the Galilean moons in it. The Galilean moons, for those who don't know, are the 4 moons that Galileo had found and traced and named 400 years ago.
All right.
So they're the largest of the moons.
How did he find these things 400 years ago? I mean, binoculars?
Well, not far from the truth, really. What Galileo did is he created a telescope that was about 2 inches in diameter. So he polished and refined glass as much as he could and created this telescope with 2 lenses that was around 2 inches in diameter. And he would set it up and look at these wandering stars. And that's where the name planet comes from. It actually means wandering star. So he would trace these things, and he was mapping it down. And astronomers 400 years ago also had to be artists. They could draw so much better than I can. I wouldn't have a clue on how to draw over half the stuff they would have drawn. But he traced down exactly where various different dots were in the sky. And while he was doing this, he discovered a pattern. He could see with his little telescope that he made 4 dots that frequently orbited around what was called Jupiter, and what we had the planet as a consequence. And he decided that they must have been moons, not stars or planets of themselves. And so that's how he discovered the 4 Galilean moons. They're the only moons that we can see with a telescope that small. If you want to see the other ones, you have to have a much larger telescope.
Okay. So you actually can take like a regular telescope, like the one you would buy for your teenager that wants to look up in the sky and stare at stuff. You could actually take that telescope and see.
Yes.
Moons.
You can see 4 moons, and you can see them orbit and trace them, and you can actually see them move. And depending on how long you really want to sit there in the freezing cold of the night and actually watch the stars, you can actually trace them over the course of a night and watch these 4 dots move with respect to Jupiter. It's really awesome to do.
All right. Why would it be freezing cold?
Well, you're doing it at night, to put it blunt.
Well, yeah.
not only that, the best viewing time for Jupiter, or at least from where I am, is actually winter, because you're going to have a longer night. And
okay.
Yeah. And you're also going to be, Jupiter is going to be more on in those field of sky, in that particular frame of sky, or at least where I am. There are other parts of the world where summer would be the better field, but even then, sitting still at night when there is no sun to keep you warm, I'm sorry, but it's cold.
I bet. All right. So, I'm just trying to cover these things because I can imagine somebody going, wait a minute, why would it be cold? Why couldn't they just turn on a heater,
No, you don't want to turn on a heater when you're doing observational work in astronomy for a variety of different reasons. One of them actually being you'll actually destroy what you see. Look at it from this point of view. When you look at the stars, have you ever noticed how sometimes they twinkle? You've got this, and you notice how sometimes they twinkle more than other times. Sometimes they seem really quite still and they only do a little bit of a twinkling, but sometimes they're really, really twinkling and they're like, oh my God, it's like, is this thing going to stop?
It's almost like they're winking at you.
Yeah, exactly. And what that is actually our atmosphere. It's the temperature differences from the ground to above ground that's causing the air to wobble, for the lack of a better term. And as a consequence, the stars are just going bazonkers. The light coming from them just doesn't quite know which way to travel through the air. Now, if you turn on a heater, you're going to make it worse where you happen to be sitting, because you're making the temperature differences between the ground and the stuff just above you even bigger. And that hot air rises.
Right.
It creates that heat temperature moving, and the air just goes all over the place. The light's going to go all over the place, and nothing's going to look stable. It's just, you don't want that. You want things to be as stable and calm as possible. So one of the ways to do that is to make sure everything's cold, really cold.
I'm sure you had your share of cold observation nights.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
I'm sure you could tell tales on that one.
Oh, yes, including me sitting on the dome floor with a sleeping bag wrapped up around my face, and all you could see was my eyes and my nose while I was watching the monitors, and everything else was just like, I'm cold, I don't want to move.
That sounds very chilly.
It's called dedication, and that's one of the reasons why scientists are a creature of their own. And that's probably coming back to one of the things that you were asking me about right at the beginning, waiting 5 years. That's probably why we do it, because we are so dedicated to the science. We will put ourselves into these horrible situations just to get the answers to those questions. And if it means we freeze, we freeze.
I'm sorry, but I hate the cold. I mean, I have a blanket, a heater. I don't do cold. I have an electric blanket on my bed. No.
Yeah, no, cold is okay for me as long as it's not too cold, but that's okay.
So what's the... pardon me. What's the longest you ever sat still doing an observation in the cold?
The longest I ever sat still. Oh. Well, I didn't really have to sit still for too long because most of my data runs lasted for only 2 minutes when I was doing observational work. It came down to, when I was doing my observational work, it came down to the amount of memory I could put into my computers. I was recording in the order of about 100 frames a second, and I could only record 2 minutes worth of data before I had to flush the buffers. And to do that, I had to manually do some bits and pieces and enter in things. So I think me, it was 2 minutes was probably the longest, but I know there are some people that have run things for hours on end, occasionally going through and just checking to make sure that they haven't tracked off star or anything like that, doing slight readjustments here and there. But yeah, mine haven't been very long.
A few minutes I could handle. I can put up with anything for 5 to 10 minutes. You get me much beyond that? Where's my blankie? Where's my heater? Where's my mug of hot chocolate?
Yep, I totally. It got to the point when I was doing observational work, I would set the computer going, set the cameras going, go into the data room where there was heaters and warmth and a TV, and I would sit there for about a minute, maybe a minute and a half, and then slowly meander back up to the dome floor and make sure that things hadn't gone crunch while I was away, realign if I had to, and set the next lot of data going. So yeah, I got lazy towards the end. I wanted warm.
I don't blame you, and I'm guessing it all worked out, so hey, you got your PhD.
Because I've got my PhD, yeah.
Right. I mean, come on here. 2 ounces of common sense. You got the PhD, so it must have worked out. All right. So is there anything else I missed asking you that you really wanted to share with everybody?
No, I can't think of anything else. All I can say is that I know Juno's next flyby for Jupiter is going to be in about another 2 months, so it's going to be some time away. And then after that, it's going to be about every 14 days. So the first 2 flybys that it was doing are sort of preliminary, sort of last-minute maneuver things to get it into the proper orbit that it had to do for the science runs. And then the science runs are the last 34 flybys that it will be doing. And after that, it's called crash land into the planet and go bye-bye.
Wow. Like I said, I'm amazed by this whole thing. All right. It is well past the bottom of the hour, everybody. There is another show tonight right on my heels. Wentz's World had some technical issues last night, so I only have about 15 minutes left in the show. So we're going to take our commercial break right now. And I will be back with you after that commercial break, and we are going to do the quickest news wrap-up you've ever heard me do, because, boy, is there a lot of news to cover. But I wanted to hear about Juno and Jupiter. It's more fun than talking about terrorists all the time, right, Judy?
Of course.
I mean, I'm sorry, the terrorists are just no fun. So,
no.
All right, let's take that brief commercial break. And by the way, thank you very much, Dr. Judy L. Moore. And if people want to have a question they didn't think of tweeting out or contacting you with me or you with while we were on the air, where can they reach you?
They can reach me on Twitter at Judy L. Moore, or they can reach me on Facebook. I have my own Facebook page, again, Judy L. Moore. They can also check me out on my personal blog, judylmoore.com. Or alternatively, they can go to the editorial business that I happen to run, which is Black Wolf Editorial Services, blackwolfeditorial.com.
All right. Well, we'll probably be hearing one of your ads in a few minutes. So, all right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And let's go take that commercial break. As soon as I get Host Kitty to get his paws together here.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
Down if you wanna, you can run away if you wanna, you can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna, you can play dead if you wanna, forget what they said if you wanna, turn your back on the country needing you right now, but I don't wanna.
All right, thank you guys for holding in there with me over that commercial break. All right, I know I have 9 minutes left, and I have a 1-inch stack of articles because while I didn't always get on the air every day, I'm a news junkie. I'm sorry, it's just my thing. So, all right, we're going to start with Iran. We're only going to cover a couple stories, and then I've decided you're going to get a special midday version of Jessie's POV tomorrow because some of these stories are getting old sitting here, and I don't like keeping them to myself. All right. A U.S. general on Tuesday said Tehran is acting in an unsafe and provocative manner in the Persian Gulf, where the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps frequently conducts risky maneuvers around U.S. vessels. This came from General Joe Votel, head of the U.S. Military Central Command. All right, he calls encounters unprofessional. All right, let's take a listen to the audio clip.
Our efforts, together with the efforts of our partners and allies, help to ensure the free flow of commerce through these choke points and to other parts of the world. In recent months, we've seen an uptick in confrontations by Iranian vessels in the Arabian Gulf. I personally witnessed this behavior last month while on the USS New Orleans transiting the Strait of Hormuz. Some of you were with me. An IRGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps missile ship, and 3 fast attack crafts demonstrated aggressive behavior in the vicinity of our ship. In recent days, we have witnessed even more provocative activity by the IRGCN Navy vessels. That type of behavior is very concerning, and we hope to see Iran's naval forces act in a more professional manner. You know, Iran's actions here are in the Arabian Gulf are unlike anybody else. No one else does what they do in the Arabian Gulf. They don't go out and they don't drive fast boats towards the military vessels out there in the same way that they do. And nobody else does that. And so, you know, what in international waters. And so what I call on Iran to do is to be the professional force that they claim to be. Professional militaries, professional maritime forces don't operate in that way. We acknowledge all parties, all countries in that area have the right to operate in international waters, but they should do so in a responsible manner. And what we see with the Iranians is not particularly responsible. It is provocative in some cases, and it's unsafe, and it can lead to situations where we may not be able to de-escalate in a time before something happens.
All right, so you heard General Joe Votel really, for lack of a term here, rip on the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. I'm sorry, but if they are acting like idiots, I'm sorry, they deserve to be called out for it. The patrol craft USS Squall fired 3 warning shots at an Iranian Revolutionary Guard in the Persian Gulf, and this was just a few days ago. Now, I'm sure you may have heard that one on the news. Let's see, what else do we have? And the USS Squall and the USS Tempest, despite multiple warnings via radio, loudspeaker, the Iranian boat approached head-on, coming within 200 yards or 200 meters of one of the vessels. Ultimately, the Squall fired 3 warning shots from a .50 caliber gun, causing the Iranian vessel to turn away. A defense official told AFP that ships from the U.S. and Iranian navies had interacted more than 300 times in 2015 and more than 250 times already in the first half of this year. All right, 250 times this year. And 10% of those encounters were deemed unsafe and unprofessional. So, all right, guys, I understand you, Iran, I understand you want to play with your toys. I just hope you're not trying to start World War III, because you might start something you can't stop, at least not easily. All right, I've got one more story. There is American Otto F. Warmber of Cincinnati is a 21-year-old honors student at the University of Virginia that has been held by North Korea since January. He was seized by North Korean security officials on the day he was to depart the country at the end of an organized tour. Well, why would they arrest him? Just to refresh your memories? He attempted to steal a political propaganda poster in his hotel in Pyongyang. Alright, dumb move. Around here, that might get you a fine. And Pyongyang is the capital of North Korea. It's a seemingly minor offense that the government of North Korea regarded as a major crime. His sentence is a 15-year prison term in the North Korean penal system, which also uses hard labor. I don't recall off the top of my head if he got sentenced to hard labor or just 15 years in prison, but in neither case is it a good thing. All right. And the rebukes came that it was a disproportionately harsh sentence. Mr. Warmber had received only one consular visit in March from the Embassy of Sweden, which looks after American interests in North Korea. For those of you living under a rock who are unaware of things, we, the United States, do not have an embassy in North Korea. We have no official formal diplomatic ties with North Korea. So it's a country I'd scratch off your wish list to go visit. And the State Department agrees with me. But anyway, it is considered unusual for prisoners to get only one consular visit over such a long period. And despite requests by the Swedish embassy, the North Korean government still routinely delays or denies consular access to U.S. citizens. The State Department has warned Americans not to travel to North Korea because of the risk of arbitrary arrest. So like I said, I agree with the State Department on this one. Cross North Korea right off your penny let's go vacation there list. I mean, your money may go further, but really? Is it worth ending up in a North Korean prison? And Warmberg received the harshest punishment of any American detained there since November 2012, with Kenneth Bae, an American missionary of Korean descent, was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. Mr. Bae and another American imprisoned, Matthew Todd Miller, were freed by North Koreans in November 2014 during a visit to North Korea by James R. Clapper, Jr., the Obama administration's national intelligence director, who brought them home aboard his plane after secret negotiations. All right. And they have to be holding this kid for leverage, negotiations. Clearly what they want is some high-ranking U.S. official, and they want to lure us there with this kid. This 21-year-old who, yeah, I agree, trying to steal something is stupid. I'm going to suspect he's probably gotten away with that kind of stuff or figured no one was watching. North Korea is a totalitarian dictatorship state. There are cameras everywhere. Never assume you aren't being watched, ever. And let's just say you're never going to go there, because it ain't worth the risks. All right. There is a bonus play of Wentz's World right on my heels, because there were technical issues last night, and Wentz's World did not air properly. So that is going to start just as soon as I get off the air. And on that note, I'm out here!